It's said it's the best way to get optimal soil health. How many of these lies do you believe about mulching your garden? Number 7 is actually my biggest pet peeve. Lie number 1 is that hay makes an amazing mulch and that's the best option you could possibly use. This may be true in some cases, but unfortunately these days a lot of places have contaminated hay sprayed with broadleaf weed killers that can persist in the hay and can kill your plants. Number 2 is that rotten horse manure is great to put on the surface of your garden to help feed the soil. That may be the case if you can guarantee that you have got organic horse manure and that it is well rotted down. If your horse manure is not well rotted down, it can burn your plants, and of course if your horses have been eating the aminopyralid sprayed hay, unfortunately that means their poop now contains it as well, because unlike other varieties of spray, that stays active even once it's been through the animal. Number 3 is compost is the ultimate top dressing and can be used as a mulch, and again that can be true. If the compost you are using is still steaming, it is too hot to put around your plants and it can kill your plants literally by cooking them. The other problem with compost is if it is bad compost. You may have bought some particularly municipal compost. It's often not well broken down, and because of that it can still contain seeds and invasive roots, which when you put it on your garden can then invade your garden. Number 4 is to not waste money on weed mat, to just use black plastic because it's cheaper and it works just as well, and that is not true. I mean, it blocks out the weeds for sure, but it gets too hot for the roots because it doesn't breathe, and it also doesn't let the rain drip through. Number 5 is chopping and dropping weeds is a great idea, and again it can be a great idea. There's a bug. It can be a really good idea. The problem arises when the plants are starting to go to seed. Just because you've pulled them out of the ground doesn't mean those flowers won't still have enough energy to make seeds, and so you can end up contaminating your soil with vast quantities of seed heads. If your plants are starting to go to seed, or if they've got their flower that is just about finished, pull them out and stick them in your compost. Don't use those for chop and drop or you will regret it. Number 6, which you will hear a lot of places, and to be honest I preach this as well, is that wood mulch is a great mulch, and it can be a great mulch. It can also be a terrible mulch. There are some types of plants, walnut being one of them and eucalyptus being another, and I'm sure there probably are others, but these are 2 I have had trouble with. They produce something in their wood which leaks into the soil and stops the plants from growing. So if you can get a free source of wood mulch, that's wonderful, but just make sure those wood chips do not contain eucalyptus or walnut if you're planning on putting them on your garden. When I had this problem, it did take about a year for that chemical to break down out of the soil enough for my plants to actually finally grow again. The other problem with wood mulch is sometimes it contains seeds, particularly from trees and particularly from invasive trees, and sometimes they will throw roots of whatever they're pulling out through as well. And the biggest lie that annoys me the most about mulching around plants is don't use wood mulch because it steals nitrogen, and that's not true. There are some caveats, of course. If your wood mulch is sitting on the top layer of the soil, it's not going to be stealing nitrogen from the soil to break down. The microbes that are doing the breaking down will suck it out of the atmosphere, out of the air, and use that. If, however, for whatever reason you've dug those wood chips through your soil, that's when they will start taking nitrogen from your plants. And when you plant into wood mulch, be sure to dig right down into the actual native soil or compost or whatever you put underneath that wood mulch that has plenty of nitrogen in it, to plant your plant into there. Don't try and plant them into the wood mulch, even if the wood mulch looks brown and broken down. If you can still see the little pieces of wood in it, it's not broken down enough, and it will continue to steal nitrogen off the plants you are trying to grow in it. One way to get around this is to put a layer underneath the wood mulch that you're putting in that has a decent amount of nitrogen. Alfalfa pellets are one option, maybe some rabbit manure or other well-rotted manures, and then you've got yourself a little bit of a buffer. But when your wood mulch is just on top of the soil and you're not trying to plant straight into it, it will not steal nitrogen out of the existing soil. And if you found this interesting, check out this video here all about keeping weeds out of your garden. I will see you in the next one.